where I remember when VMware came out and we could all of a sudden get, images of our servers. And it was like, wow, this is the most powerful thing ever. I can run all this code. And if I screw it up, I just back up to that last backup. Oh my gosh, unbelievable. Like that was a new tool, but I didn't have to like retrain how I thought. I didn't have to retrain my job. I just had to learn how to use that tool. This is actually reframing what we do every day, how we do what we do every day. And I think that's sort of the unique nut that we're all trying to crack.
Aaron Thompson, welcome to MONDAi CS. How are you?
Thank you, Michael. I'm ecstatic to be here. Everybody hates a Monday morning, first off. So if I can make anyone a little less hateful, hopefully, in the next, what are we doing? What are we doing? 30 minutes here or something?
Yeah, roughly. We'll shoot for that. We'll see what happens here.
Brighten up their MONDAi CS.
Yeah, brighten up the MONDAi.
Love it.
Well, man, I'm super happy to have you here because you're such a vocal person in a good way in the CS community. You have a lot of good stuff to share, and you just switched to Sturdy, which is an AI native company. And so, this, as I said, this is not a promotion, but I am really curious because in my mind, I'm thinking a lot about AI transformation in general at the company level, at the department level, at the individual level, within the product. Why now? Why did you join Sturdy? I know it sounds like an interview question. It's not, but just tell me, what's on your mind?
Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And yeah, of course, no, it's not a promotional thing at all. Like that would be horrible to actively promote one's company.
Yes, we definitely won't do that.
Of course not. Yeah. But yeah, no, actually people have asked me that, like what made you change? I was in the learning and development customer success world for almost 7 years and loved my time there, loved my partners over at Success Coaching, and like what changed? And for me, it was really that we now have the opportunity from a systems and tools perspective to deliver the outcomes that so many of the customer success leaders would come to us asking for. So for example, I shouldn't say almost every, but the vast majority of the prospecting calls, whether it's inbound, outbound, that I had as a chief revenue officer over at Success Coaching, there was two things they were looking to do. They wanted to get their team to be more strategic and more proactive. I want them to be at the executive level, able to have those conversations, really driving and delivering the value for those executive stakeholders and champions and end users, et cetera. And one way to do that is to enable the team. And so they would look for training, like how to ask open-ended questions and be consultative, and how do you communicate in an effective executive level manner. That's a skill set. But there was also the need to free up time. And what unfortunately would happen a lot of times, and I think a lot of CSMs are still living this world today, they become glorified data entry people who have all these different things they've got to do that take all of their time, so they can't be proactive, strategically working with these clients. And that's where the perfect intersection of AI and customer success, we're kind of at that impetus right now, where the technology and the capabilities of a product like Sturdy will allow the CSMs more time to do those CSME things. And so after years of training people on how to do those, the human side, right, the skill set side effectively, I was ready to kind of frankly go back to my roots. My whole career has been at technology companies, in IT departments, all sorts of different ways. I was a programmer for 6 years, a SQL database administrator. Like I've had my technical run before, and it was sort of like the siren song calling me back. Like I was ready to get back into a technical world, but still wanted to serve the same people in the same industry that I love so much, this customer success world. And I can still try to help deliver those same types of outcomes, but now I can do it through product enablement from Sturdy and the other players that are out there, obviously assisting in that as well. So I think we're in this really cool time for customer success and AI to hit that intersection. And I heard a quote a couple of years ago at a conference that AI is not going to replace CSMs. AI is going to replace CSMs that don't have AI.
Right.
Like, like it's there as a tool. It can be incredibly effective at allowing us to do the human things of a customer success practice rather than the data entry things that we can automate through a various set of effective tools.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, okay, there's so much to unpack there. I couldn't agree more that this is probably it's the most interesting time because we're in the entry phase, of this whole thing. So we're kind of all figuring it out. I went to a really nice event yesterday, last evening here in Austin. And, I find myself often comparing where I'm at to others. And fortunately, one of the speakers, she was reading my mind and she had said, don't worry about wherever you are in your transformation, because it's not like everyone else is so far ahead. We're all just, navigating this together. And that brought me back down to the ground, and I felt good about that. There's so much going on, I think, there's so much power and capabilities. I think a lot of times we think about, or the headlines with AI are around the headlines are always around the GPUs and the tokens and all that kind of stuff. Go ahead, you can cough. And that doesn't really resonate with me. Couple things do, of course. I think it comes down to the tactical stuff. How can you write a better email? How can you, I don't know, refine some sort of presentation or something like that, or write a script? It's very good at those kinds of things, or shorten this or elongate this. It's very helpful with that. But where I've really found the unlock is on the strategy. Mm-hmm. I talk to AI as if it's a coach. I'm not dating my AI. I'm married, but
the second child on the way, by the way.
That's right. Yes.
Pretty daily stuff. Let's get one summer for you, dude.
It's going to be insane. Yeah, like I said, we want less sleep, so we've decided we're going to have another child.
AI can help with that, I think, somehow. I'm sure we're going to be used to it.
True. All right, so you had said, I'm interested in this topic of enablement and training, because that was also a big part of the event last night. Was there's many different aspects of how AI is going to reshape and transform companies from the inside out, all the way from the individual level, team, department, and then inside of the products as well. And you're kind of in an interesting place, being at an AI native company. You have the opportunity to do both. You can transform your customer's experience with AI. But let's talk a little bit about, how are you thinking about AI in terms of enabling your team members?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Well, what Sturdy does, just at the high level, not to pitch it, but just to kind of show the framework in which where I live with AI, because the AI is such a broad term, and we automatically think of ChatGPT style tools where it's going to help me, take this and make it smaller, or give me the background on this and that. It's like an assistant,
Right.
I actually heard about an AI assistant that is literally a personal assistant. And so you can set it up and you can just tell it, book me a flight from Portland to San Francisco for next week. And it'll go find it and then book it and do it all for you. That's one type of AI, one use case or set of use cases from a generative AI perspective. Sturdy is really not that. Sturdy is language models that are purpose-built to surface signals of good things like expansion opportunities, or bad things like churn risk, or product insight, kind of voice of the customer things. Those are kind of the three categories. And we tie into all of your unstructured text-based data like emails, support tickets, chat, Slack if you're using it with your customers, et cetera. And we standardize all that. We can make sense of all the gobbledygook, if you will. And then we run it through these based language models. And then we can output to whatever systems you're using. So we'll just interface straight into your CSP or your CRM or Slack channels, or meet you where you're at, right? And so we have a UI, but it's not really what our value proposition is. Our value proposition is using AI to comb through what has historically been unreadable, unconsumable data, impossible because of the vast volume and amounts of data and all the silos. If you think of every email inbox as its own silo, if you think of emails as data, those are individual silos that no one's seeing, kind of like a universal pane of glass across all of that. And so that's where we live in the AI world, is really more behind the scenes and using it to surface up these signals based on these purpose-built language models. So it really depends on, like, in terms of how you'll use AI to enable your team. Like, you can use Sturdy for coaching opportunities. So I can use Sturdy to signal up when we are apologizing to our customer. And I can start unpacking why are we apologizing and start using that to coach my team to either not make happen what happened that caused us to apologize in the first place, or maybe reword it so that we're less defensive and, just kind of do some wordsmithing so that we're a little more eloquent and intentional with our communication style, right? That would be one way to use our product for coaching. There's a bunch of different sort of opportunities there, but at its core, like, AI could be so many different things. And then, like, it's just such a broad, it's sort of like when the cloud became a
Yeah.
thing. Michael, you're a young guy, but for myself, in my day, software was on premise, damn it. I own it. It's mine. I install. And then you get this cloud thing and Salesforce and as a service and all that. And all of a sudden, everything was the cloud. I'm a big football fan. They always have IBM commercials. And it was cloud this, cloud that. Let us be your managed service provider for your cloud everything, right? Nobody really knew what the cloud was. Like, it was just a sort of manipulous. That's kind of where we're at with AI. Like, if we're all honest, like, I was speaking at a local AI event a couple of weeks ago. It was like my 4th day at Sturdy. So I was obviously a resident expert on all of this technology. And so I had to Google, like, what is AI? Like, where did it start? We all know about, like, generative and open AI. That's kind of the big, deep seek and all this stuff now, right? But, like, that's not where it started. And, like, how long has that been around? How long did it take them to build this thing? Like, because it kind of seemingly came out of nowhere. And, like, 22, all of a sudden everybody was talking about open AI. And so I did some research. AI started with reactive AI. And these are predictive. They're like, it's not predictive. It's like recommendation engines. So you had, like, people who wore this or viewed this, bought that, like the Amazon, right?
Mm-hmm.
People who bought this also bought that. These attribute-based recommendations, but totally reactive, 100% requires human interaction, right? You have to ask whatever, and it has no memory at all. It's just all reactive.
Right.
Then we're in limited memory AI. That's where we live today. And that's where it actually learns a little bit over time, and it can get smarter, but it has a limited data set. That's why, like, ChatGPT is like, I am just a language model that can only go back to 2013 and, all of that stuff. That's because it's limited memory. And that's where we're at today. Then we look at what's next. That's theory of mind. That's where it starts to become aware. It can recognize things. And there's been one example of theory of mind AI that was widely seen. And it was actually a while ago, even though we're not really in that type of AI yet. There was an MIT grad student who made a robotic face that looked like Johnny Five is alive. I don't know if you ever saw Short Circuit. Again, you're much younger than me, but 80 kids will know that reference.
I have to Google it.
Computer, yeah. It was just a computer head. But what it could do was actually recognize on human faces happiness, anger, fear, sadness, things that we recognize with our real intelligence. That's really the first example of theory of mind. And it was just kind of an experiment. And then we get into self-aware AI. And that's the Terminator 2, like,
Oh, yeah.
General AI. That's also AGI, artificial general intelligence. That's where it has become aware. It knows who it is, what it is. It has its own, this is the creepy part for me. It has its own thoughts, feelings, emotions, and desires. It has wants. It's so weird for a machine to even think about that. And right now, they're talking 20, 30 years, expected before we're in that category. So there's a little history lesson and sort of like what's happening in AI, because most people don't even know those 4 categories, right? Like, we just think of AI as AI, like we thought of the cloud as the cloud. So it really depends, I think, in terms of, like, how will teams use AI. At the end of the day, we can use machines to help us do the mundane things that take human time so that we can free up humans to do the human things that machines never can or will be able to do. At the end of the day, there's always going to be people making business decisions based on personal preference. And that's going to be like, it's always going to be people. There's always going to be a place for people, even if you have a completely digital motion and it's direct to consumer and you buy it online and everything is automated. There's still going to be a place for someone to be the face of that company, the brand ambassador, the loudmouth like I am, whatever, right? There's always going to be people, and we will always have relationships with people. AI is just a great tool. It's an incredibly powerful tool, and there's just so many different ways to use it. But for us, that's where we live in terms of Sturdy and how we've seen some of our clients use AI or Sturdy's AI and our language models for coaching. Support tickets is another good one, right? Like if one of our signals is response lag. So we say, I'm going to get back to you on Friday. I forget to. Customer comes back and says, hey, I never heard from you on Friday. That triggers a signal, and that signal can go to the leader of the team to then use that for coaching, right? And that would be another example of kind of like that use case for the learning and development and enabling people to be better at what they do and giving them more time to do the more important human aspects of the job, the successing, if you will.
Right. Yeah, and I had this conversation, a similar conversation with Alex Turkovich yesterday, on the last episode of I had said I don't mind interacting with a chatbot or an AI agent to get help, and in fact, I kind of prefer it because it's just going to give you very fast answers. They're going to be accurate. It's just going to get you to the answer that you're looking for. I don't think anyone is ready to, well, I made the same mistake of saying that last time. I don't think most people are ready to build a relationship with their AI. And that I do think means that, look, as I think about how can AI transform a customer success manager's life and a CS organization's life, it's about managing 60 customers feel like 30. Or about managing 30 customers and making that feel like 15 or 10. And that's because you get to redeploy your energy, you get to redeploy your empathy. And oh, by the way, you can have a better life. You can actually get up and walk around, get a glass of water, walk outside if you need to, it's very difficult when all the tactical stuff is up to you. It can very much be a stretch on anyone's bandwidth. So yeah, you touched on something interesting, the Terminator concept. I think that humanity is not necessarily very good at preventing problems. We're very good at reacting to them and saying all the things we should have done, right? And I definitely have that fear with AI that we don't know where things are really headed, and who knows, man? When we know, it's going to be too late.
Yeah. Well, I think there was a similar unfounded nervousness with the cloud. I was in healthcare tech at that time when the cloud started becoming a thing. SaaS models were starting to get rolled out. And I remember being at our conferences, and we were a complete solution for a health insurance company. And we were rolling out a cloud offering. And every one of our customers was like, never. We will never. We have too much HIPAA information, PHII. We've got way too much privacy concerns. We'll never go to the cloud. Now I'm kind of old, so 20 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, you're old.
And now here we are, like every company, very few do like the black box, like on-prem stuff nowadays. Certain government entities do, they get it completely sequestered off from even the internet. But typically, every machine's got some connectivity to the outside world today because we've all become comfortable with. And that privacy concern may have been one then, but it's certainly not now, at least for most companies and organizations. That being said, the vendors have to be SOC 2 compliant, GDPR and all that, which by the way, Sturdy is. But back then they were real, that was a legitimate concern. And so I think that there's going to be some of that too, I think ChatGPT was a big one for people to become comfortable with AI, the concept of AI, and frankly, feel the power of it. That was the thing for me. I had seen chatbots and I had done, all the IN things and all that stuff. And when I heard about this ChatGPT, I was like, God, this is going to suck. All right, let me go try it. It blew my mind what it could do.
Sure.
Once I started thinking about it and again, that's a generative use case. Help me generate something. I've got this idea, make it 10 pages long, or we're creating new content with the assistance of AI. That was different. That was the big aha. Like, it wasn't just a search through the knowledge base for me and pull up the right article based on some like Boolean search of my text, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was more semantic based. It was more, I could communicate like it's a person, and it was able to follow along. And when it didn't know, it would tell me, right? I can only go back so far, blah, 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 right? All that stuff. It wasn't obviously always accurate. That's when we got into the hallucinations and stuff. Like, you can't just take it at its word, but huge aha moment for that type of a use case. And I think as more people embrace that, more companies are building stuff on that technology. Almost every SaaS product is going to have a co-pilot type of thing now.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, it's
it's just,
unavoidable.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's so easy to build.
Right.
You can just slap it on top of GPT and boom, there you go. So I think more and more consumers are going to get used to it, just like the cloud, just like streaming services, moving from DVDs to, streaming. People didn't like that for a while. And then, because I want to own it, right? Like, but you don't really care. What you really care about is watching the movie, whether it's on a DVD or it's a streaming service. You want your outcome.
That's
and
right.
to your point about using bots and everything, Michael, I think you're absolutely right. I would rather use a bot if it allows me to get my answer faster than calling in and talking to a person. And if you can do that effectively, that's a better user experience, a better customer experience than forcing them to interact with a human. But in terms of value realization, goals and objectives of my business, in a more enterprise B2B world where it's beyond just return on investment, but really show me what those desired outcomes are that I told you I wanted. Show me I've gotten them. Like, that's the human side of customer successing, if you will. And that's what hopefully will get better and more free, because they don't have to do the support and service types of tactical things as well.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't even need a team to do those, at least for the basic stuff, like the how-to and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think even some of that you're describing, the objective setting, what all that kind of stuff, maybe, I mean, some of that I think will be chipped away at, but in a good way, in the sense that somebody can prepare a plan for you and then you are still the steward of the plan. On that kind of generalized topic, I think the speed at which organizations are willing to transform, it's very different depending on the organization. So talk to me a little bit about what sort of readiness are you seeing with different prospects or customers that you're talking about, to like their degree of readiness to incorporate AI and to adopt it into their workflows and their organization.
Yeah, I've got a couple of thoughts on that. Actually, that's a really good question. So first off, it's privacy, info, security. That is number one for everybody. If it's not, it should be. Like, how am I going to trust this thing to be in my tech stack and know that it's not being trained on stuff that I don't want it to be? It's not reading stuff I don't want it to read, all of that, right? And so that's for an effective AI company or an AI startup like ours. Like, the first thing you've got to do is figure that out. Like, you've got to figure out what your InfoSec, SOC 2, GDPR, how do you get compliant so that you can alleviate that concern? Because that's going to be, for any enterprise, that's going to be the number one concern. And then the other one that's kind of interesting in terms of like transformation. I was talking to, I don't know if you know Jake Dunlap is. Shout out to Jake. He's a buddy of mine. He's awesome. CEO of a consulting
Don't know,
company.
but shout out to Jake.
Out of Austin, actually. I'll introduce you to Jake.
Intro me. I'd love to meet him.
Why? He's going big in AI from a sales enablement perspective.
Awesome.
His company scaled, does sales, revenue, ops, consulting services. And he's tacking on AI to that. Like, what should your sales team be using AI for today? And so he was in front of 400 account managers and account execs at an organization that he was working with a couple weeks ago. And he said, all right, how many of you have used ChatGPT or something like it in the last week? Everybody's hand went up. How many of you use it almost every day? Everybody's hand stayed up. How many of you ever have been given a class or been instructed by your leadership on how to use it for your products, services, value proposition, prospects, addressable markets, etc.? Every hand went down. And that's the point. Like, people are using it, but we're all kind of using it in the Wild West. Leaders need to step up and identify what it means for them so that they can then teach their teams how to use it in the most effective manner for their go-to-market and their prospects and, for their world. And they're just not doing that. right yet. He's just banging his head against the wall. He's just telling me, he's like, Aaron, I just don't get it. Like, everybody says they want to look into AI. They're AI curious. They're this and they're that. And I bring them, here's what to do. Well, we're not sure yet. We're not ready. It's this weird time where everybody's AI curious, but also AI scared, I think, at the same time. And I think some of it goes back to the privacy infosec concerns and that. But it's also just like, it's a new set of tools. It's a new power that, and what Jake said that I thought was really profound is we need to retrain. What is unique about this embarking into the AI era, we'll call it, is it's not just a new set of tools. We have to reframe our thinking of what we do as humans versus what we lean into the machine to do as AI.
Yeah.
And I think that I was like, that totally makes sense. Like, we have to actually completely change like how we think.
Yeah.
Like, no, I don't need to write that email. What I need to do is have my 4 bullet points and have AI write that email for just like a quick little use case or something, so that I can then use my time to do whatever, again, more strategic, proactive initiatives, less tactical, and kind of thinking of it that way. I was like, that's actually a really good point, that like, this isn't just a new tool that, like the cloud, where we just all had to figure out how to use it. Or I remember when VMware came out and we could all of a sudden get, images of our servers. And it was like, wow, this is the most powerful thing ever. I can run all this code. And if I screw it up, I just back up to that last backup. Oh my gosh, unbelievable. Like, that was a new tool, but I didn't have to like retrain how I thought. I didn't have to retrain my job. I just had to learn how to use that tool. This is actually reframing what we do every day, how we do what we do every day. And I think that that's sort of the unique nut that we're all trying to crack. And I think that's what slows AI adoption and transformation in organizations, is because they aren't addressing it from that lens. They're looking at it as, how do I use this and fit this into my current tool set? And do we even want to? Because frankly, we've all got too many tools as it is now. We got to log into 18 different things every day. Do I want another thing to log into, et cetera?
Yeah.
So anyway, long answer, but yeah, that's kind of my take on it. Is those two things come to mind.
Mm-hmm. And this is why I think so much about leveraging AI for the strategy, because if we're only leveraging it for the tactical, you don't actually unlock long-term gains. You might unlock short-term gains, which are, that's great, but you have to be thinking about, how does it help your strategic thinking? Because solving the strategic problems, that's the real unlock of productivity, because then you really get cycles back. So for example, I've been vocal about this, but we brought in a new director and promoted a director in my organization. And so we had just a different leadership structure, added a couple more managers. And now all of a sudden, my leadership organization is quite a bit bigger than what it was before. I'm staring at my calendar thinking, is this the best way to manage my department? Like, what are the meetings that we should be having, and what meetings should we not be having, and what should we be talking about, and when and why, so that we can focus our efforts in the right places and give back time to people, so that we're getting fewer interruptions, right? So that was a really nice unlock. And it's not like it was a silver bullet. It helped me out a lot to make some changes, but I'm still iterating on that. But I definitely would recommend anybody, especially, no matter what your position is, but to think more strategically about the questions that are just difficult to answer right now at all. Work through those with AI as your friend. And then as a byproduct, the things that absorb your tactical time will either reveal themselves, and then you can automate those, or you will just be able to move past those things.
Yeah. And I think as the models get smarter and more people use it, and like, someone's got to pump in what that ideal strategy is, or at least, leave crumbs for it to be able to give it to me as an ideal strategy. And so I think that's just going to get better over time in terms of being a coach or a guide. A real extension of your human team is leveraging some artificial intelligence to yeah, you can help at the strategic level, you can help at the tactical level, just literally using it as an assistant, like we were talking about earlier, in the flights and stuff. How can I, like, here's what my calendar looks like. What would you do to change it? How would you make it more efficient? I'm sure that you can dive in all sorts of like manager level use cases
Mm-hmm.
for how to be a more effective leader as well.
Yeah. The help me book travel is really interesting one. I mean, that's again the way I would approach it, although I haven't approached it like this yet for travel, but hey, help me book the travel. Great. I hate navigating that stuff. It's so annoying. But even better is, hey, I've got a wife and a baby. When should I be taking travel? Where are the best places to go and at what points of the year so that I can minimize costs, maximize the fun I'm having? Here's what I like to do. Help me understand like what should my vacation schedule look like? Then go help me book all that stuff. But
Yeah.
that again, that's where I think the sort of like the more fun unlocks can really be sitting.
Yeah, totally. I think that's a really good point. Like again, what's I've seen the grids of like, how do I capitalize on my holidays to get the most time off? Have you seen those? Like, if you take these 2 days
Oh,
off, 4th of July this year, you'll end up getting like 8 days off. Like there's all these like memes and stuff out there, but yeah, you could use it for that, right? Like I've got these days off as holidays. I have this much PTO allocated each year. I've got a family. I want to go here. I live here.
yeah,
What's going to be my best bang for my buck for down seasons and that kind of stuff?
absolutely. And that's a totally valid professional use case because I mean, if you're anything like me, you just kind of get so absorbed into what you're doing that like, I'll be honest, my wife comes knocking and she's like, I'm always the one that has to come up with the plans. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Cause I'm not, I'm not sticking my head up enough to think about these things. So, yeah, I need to use it to think a little bit better about my vacations. So that's for sure.
Yeah, you might be using it to figure out how to keep your wife happy too. I don't know.
It probably knows a lot more than I do about how to do that. So I will trust it. Oh
That's
man.
hilarious. But yeah, I think there's just a million different use cases and stuff, It's like, well, we'll see how it all ends up playing out. We don't even know where this is going, but I think it's important for people in customer success, especially customer experience, especially to remind ourselves that it is a tool, but people make business decisions based on personal preference every day. And a lot of times those personal preferences come down to personal relationships.
Right.
And we're not there yet where we're going to have a relationship with like the movie Her hasn't quite happened yet.
I said the same thing, and some people are already reminding me that it is happening. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm not friends with those people. So I don't know that
Yeah.
that's happening.
I don't know those people.
I a couple more questions for you. One is, where do you get your news about AI? How do you stay up to date?
That's a good question. I just do so much general tech. It's just always in there. I've got
Mm.
a lot of like entrepreneurial thing, like feeds and emails and stuff that I've been just reading every morning, like the hustle, stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. Um, a lot of just regular publications, the New York Times, Tech Inc., etc. I don't really have any like secret insider.
Yeah,
This podcast obviously is going to be a huge,
this is huge.
um, for my content consumption and education on the topic.
Yeah,
Uh, as I become, I think, the 6th subscriber to this bad boy, I'm gonna smash the subscribe button when we get done here.
thank you.
Yeah, I don't really, I don't know. I don't have like any like insight. What do you read or whatever to get
Yeah,
your
great
AI?
question. I wish I had like the news feeds memorized. I should have had that memorized before I asked the question. But there's man, I got to research it. I'll put it in the show notes. But I have a few like maybe like two or three different like daily emails that I get. One of them is like San Francisco. Something about San Francisco or like Bay Area, something like that. It's always covering a bunch of different stuff. It's like business and AI. And then I have a couple others. Yeah, now I'm blanking on them. I'll put them in the links. I'll put them in there. But what I'm realizing is that there's actually so many, and there's this like desire to like, oh, read the next one, read the next one, read the next one. But there's so many of them that it becomes really overwhelming. So I have to like pace myself and just be like, okay, I could spend my whole day reading all this stuff. So like,
Well, you should have me summarize what's out there for you and just give me the
true. Yeah.
executive level summary.
Yes.
the TLDR, if you were. Another thing that I would recommend people do that I have leaned into here locally, there's a lot of AI meetups and communities getting created around the
Yeah,
country and the
that's
world.
true.
And a lot of them, like it's going to be a lot of technical people. Like that's my experience. Like the people who are interested in the AI for
Yeah,
PDF, I think is what
yeah,
the meetup group is. It's engineers and stuff like that, which is great for customer success people to go meet. If you're not a technical person, go to these events and
yeah.
just take notes and listen and ask questions. If you're too shy to ask questions in front of people, then Google it or use ChatGPT later to figure out what they were talking about. But there's a lot of local now
Yeah, yeah.
are like, hey, I'm into this. Anybody else into this? And I think you can learn, especially in like a place like Austin. There's got to be a ton of stuff.
There is. I went to one last night. It was hosted by Success Lab. It was amazing. We had Boston Consulting Group gave a talk. It was fantastic. And Microsoft, one of the support leaders from Microsoft got up there and talked about how they transformed Microsoft support. Microsoft support gets something like 140 million tickets a year.
Unbelievable.
And they're like, so we're going to talk to you about how we used AI to help resolve tickets faster, improve employee experience. It was really cool to hear some of their successes and like where they stubbed their toe and scraped their knee in the process. I totally agree. And on the comment you just made about, if you're too nervous to ask questions, here's my advice on not being nervous to ask questions in in-person events. And that is to sit in the front row, because not only will you be more attentive and there's like this big pressure to like not be on your phone, but you also don't see anybody else in the audience. And so you kind of forget who all is there. And so you'd be more willing to ask questions. Because if you're in the back of the room, what are you seeing? You're seeing everyone first and then the presenter behind them. So that's my trick. Just, nerd out, be the geek, get in the front. If you really want to learn it, that's where you got to be.
And if you don't, like, what's the point? You might as well be doing something else with your time if you're not there to try to learn something, like really learn something. I think that's a good point. And the other thing I always remind people is that other people have that question too. They're just not asking it.
Yeah.
Anytime people feel, I want to be the dumb one, like, you're not the dumb one. Like, I guarantee there's other people who have the same question. They either haven't thought about the question yet or they're not asking it because they're shy or whatever.
100%. 100%. All right. We're heading into kind of the final part of this podcast here, but one of the other questions I have for you is, do you have at Sturdy or anywhere else, are there any roles internally or people who are responsible for the AI transformation of the organization?
At Sturdy, we all are, because, we're an AI company. And so we're constantly thinking about how we can use it internally as well as externally, go to market, product market fit, and all the things. With our prospects and clients, there definitely is. It's not like a defined role.
Yeah.
But our best clients have someone who, for us, it's really more someone who is data curious more than AI curious, because we're surfacing up these signals from the AI out of the data that should show them some insights to act upon. And so our ideal sort of executive stakeholder or champion is someone who is really interested to learn what's in there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have time to read all the 10,000 emails we get a month, and I certainly wouldn't be able to make sense of them. So show me what's in there, because I'm curious and I'm going to improve either internal through coaching and learning and development, or product insights and making our product or processes better with our customers. I want to hear directly from the customer. That's the nice thing about Sturdy, is it takes the subjectivity out of it. It's the objective words from the customer's voice, from their mouth, literally, if it's a going recording, or from their email, literally, or from their support ticket, literally. And it's what they said. And so we can objectively point to that, say, look, these customers want this. And those are the best, are the ones who are interested in that, and really more of a BI kind of curiosity than an AI kind of, and that's business intelligence. I hate acronym bingo, but with intelligence curious as much as artificial intelligence curious. And I think that's probably how it plays out in a lot of organizations right now. It's really not about the AI. It's about, what does the AI do? Having someone who wants those outcomes for their team or customers or organization.
Yeah.
So I think, again, it's just so raw. Like there's so many use cases for it and all of
Yeah.
that. But whatever
Yeah.
those outcomes are, I think that's the person that will ultimately be driving the AI transformation or digital, adoption of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's no surprise. I mean, even I was chatting with the BCG guys, and they said that the biggest difference in those who can really who can successfully navigate the transformation are the people that actually have the biggest interest and are leaning in, because it can be kind of so overwhelming. And it sounds like AI operations is going to be an emerging role that you'll probably start to hear about. So I'm starting to think about that too, even for my own organization. It's like, oh, okay, we have different AI tools for different departments, but we don't have like a centralized orchestrator on that yet. But I think we're still so early that there's still a lot of opportunity for that. And I like what you're pointing out, and I tend to agree that if you can get the analysts on it, they're the ones that are going to be combing through data and mixed with, you have to have an analyst, but mixed with somebody who really understands the business. There's not in every level of the analysts is that same connection. And so you don't want to just go run off to solve problems for the sake of it. They have to be meaningful. So you've got to kind of put a core team together of folks who understand and know different angles. Cause usually the business people don't understand the analytics as much as the analytics people don't always get all the business. So the teamwork makes the dream work.
I think I heard that somewhere. Yeah.
No, I came up with it. No,
Yeah.
obviously.
I love that. AI ops is definitely, I mean, it would only make sense, right? Because I feel like ops just gets tacked onto the end of anything. We've got sales ops, rev ops, everything, like CS ops, like everything's got an ops. There's certainly going to be an AI ops type of industry or role.
I think so. All right, Aaron, it's been magical. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to be one of the pioneering guests on here. By the way, we can talk later, but would love to help you fill up your guest list and get yourself all teed up to start knocking these babies out of the park. I think this is a really cool thing that you're doing here. And there's two things that I love about it. The AI component, everybody's going to be interested and curious about that, of course, right now. But really, most importantly, I think you're just trying to make Mondays suck less. Like, I appreciate that, Michael. I think
dude, that's got to be our motto. Make Mondays suck less.
There you go.
I like it, dude.
I won't even take any royalties or anything from it.
You're so kind. I appreciate you.
That's yours.
All right, Aaron. Thank you so much, man. Talk to you later.
Thank you.